Lamb is a very interesting meat to work with. You could take every single piece, apply a different method of cooking, and you get a succulent meat every single time. For example, the breast, if you slow braise it, it gets all juicy, all the flavors incorporate. The rack, I mean, that's perfect for roasting, a really quick roast, and you get that really medium rare, like drip in your mouth kind of sensation. Lamb is my favorite meat to work with. You know why? Because there's so many different cuts, and every single cut has a different technique to it. I'm going to show you how to do a lamb breast. We're going to stuff it with something very delicious, and I'll show you how easy it is. First, I take a little hammer like this, and I just pound it. And the reason why I'm doing this, I'm just trying to loosen the muscles and the little bit of the fat that's a little excessive in this piece of meat, but fat equals flavor, so that's going to be very, very good. So just a little bit like this. You don't need to flatten it too much, but this is going to make it a little more tender. All right, now how about our stuffing? Thanks, Tom. Tom has some spinach that he blanched, then refreshed in cold water, and then he patted it dry, and then he squeezed the excess water right out. Because when you make a stuffing, one of the tricks here is to get all the moisture out. Okay, now to these spinach, I'm just going to roughly chop them with my hands, not too much. All right, I have some pine nuts right here that are roasted. This will bring a really, really succulent flavor to my lamb. Bacon, hey, every chance I have to use bacon, I do it. Lots and lots of garlic. And a little bit of thyme here. And to this, because this is a wet mixture, I need to add some breadcrumbs. Not toasted, just plain breadcrumbs like that. An egg, and here's a cool trick here. When you use an egg, always crack it in a little bowl, just in case you get a bad one. I mean, the odds of getting a bad one is very, very slim, but just in case. You just whisk it a little, and in it goes. Lemon zest, a little bit of refreshing zest in the stuffing like this. Okay, a little stir, and then we're ready to stuff this baby. Okay, all right. Now this guy here, he's been tenderized. Now all I need to add is a little bit of salt and pepper. You always season your meat just before you do it, actually. If you season it a little bit too early, it'll drag all the moisture out of the meat. Now here's a cool trick. You take some plastic wrap and you just roll. And what this plastic wrap actually does is tighten it so tight that the stuffing will never actually leak in the pot here. Now it's time to tie this guy here. You always start at the end with the little piece of the twine, and you do 2 knots just to make sure it's secure. And here's the trick. You take your hand, you do a loop, you go right under, and then you secure it like this. Again. Now, if you don't want to do this, ask your butcher. He can even stuff it for you. But part of the fun of doing a lamb breast like this is you can put any stuffing that you want in it. Now, I turn it on the other side, and you just go like this to really make sure that it's secure. And you go and tighten all the strings like that. You flip it one more time just to really, really secure it. See, that's not that bad. Little cutting the excess. Again, salt and pepper. Now this lamb here, the lamb breast, it needs to cook for a very, very long time. And I'm putting some white wine, and this is called slow braising. So a very low temperature, a lid on, or this foil on top. All the juices are going to be steaming inside. And the spinach is going to flavor the lamb is going to flavor the spinach, and all this exchange of flavor is going to make the meat very, very tender. Now let's see what this guy looks like. Okay. I can smell this, and it smells fantastic. It's normal if it shrinks. It's just the long cooking that does that, no problem. You take your string off. Should we try this guy? You know, lamb breast seems to be a little harder part, but if you know these tricks like stuffing and slow braising, it'll be delicious every single time. It smells fantastic with the pine nuts, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, and the bacon. It's absolutely fantastic.
That's great.
To see if a lamb breast is actually of a good quality, you look for a dark pink color. And the silver skin on the outside, this little thin skin, that's okay. You can ask your butcher to clean as much as the fat as possible, and slow braising is the trick. Lamb racks are probably my favorite way of eating lamb, simply because you have lots of meat and it's just succulent flavor. I have these 2 skillets of oil. I sear it really, really hard. Compared to the braising we did before, this is totally opposite. You sear it really hard, and it'll cook in a very hot oven. You see this one here, I put some paprika in olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, just to give it a little bit of extra flavor. I'm doing racks 2-way. Follow me and I'll show you what I'm doing here. All right, these racks I've seared. On one rack, I'm going to be putting an herb crust. Thank you, Tom. On the other one, an apricot glaze. Can you imagine how that's going to taste? I have some rosemary right here, a little bit of thyme, and lots of garlic. Now with the brush, you take your lamb rack like this, and you just brush a little bit of the oil on top. What this does, it's like glue. It'll make the herb crust stick to it. You can put as much as you want. As you can see, I love garlic, so I'm putting lots and lots on top. That one's done. Now let's take it and make the apricot glaze here. Okay. I have a skillet, a pot right here, and I'm putting some apricot preserve. If you don't like apricots, you can do peaches, you can do apples, anything really. The limit is your imagination. A little bit of water just to dilute it. To give it a little kick, we have 2 things. Some garlic right here and some hot peppers. Why not? And a little bit of lemon juice just to balance the sweetness and the acidity. Give it a little shake. And right here, you let this boil. Right here, you see the consistency after it boiled for a couple minutes? All the flavors are infused. It smells already delicious. You can really smell the peppers in it. This will be great. So again, the same technique. A little brush, and you literally just plop it on the lamb rack that has the paprika. The paprika will not give it a whole lot of heat, but it'll really, really intensify the flavors. We're just building layers here. Okay, now these are just seared. We need to cook them, don't we? So again, in a very hot oven, this is roasting. So this will make the meat very, very moist inside. Very high heat oven. And look in this guy here. Now this smells good. You see here, when I touch it, I know already it's medium rare. Just because it slightly resists the feel of my finger, just like this. It's pretty good, actually. Okay. Lamb racks should always, always be eaten medium rare. If you have a thermometer, about 130 is what you're looking for here. Now this lamb here is with the apricot glaze. You see how all the apricot glaze is caramelized? I can see and feel the sweetness already without even eating it. This will be fantastic. You see how beautiful it is inside? Medium rare, it's exactly what I'm looking for. Now for the herb crust, just the same. I put my knife on the bone and I just slide in. On the bone, you just slide like this. Looks good, eh? Now, the apricot, the herb crust. The apricot, very caramelized and juicy. The herb one actually reminds me of France and Provence. Both of them very, very juicy. This roasting lamb racks is my favorite way of eating it for sure. Roasting lamb makes it so juicy and tender. Has this beautiful crust on the outside. I love it. You always sear a rack of lamb fat side down for two reasons. First, to render the fat, and then to have the presentation side looking perfectly. Garlic, that's great. Fresh herbs, hey, why not? Lamb shanks are my favorite cut of meat. Why? Because it's so juicy, falls off the bone. What I'm doing here is just Frenching it. I'm releasing the meat from the bone. As you can see right here, when you sear the lamb, you see here the meat is actually fall off the bone. So it won't stretch in any kind of funky ways that you wouldn't want. So I'm just crusting the outside of the lamb here. And what would be very good with this is a paste, a very flavorful paste. So with the paste, I need a little bit of garlic and a little bit of, lots of garlic and some shallots. Fresh herbs, mint and rosemary is actually, in my opinion, the perfect match with lamb. It'll bring all that freshness. It's gonna taste like summer almost. Now the secret ingredient, anchovies. You think that's crazy, right? It won't taste like fish, I promise. I'm putting them in water actually to get the excess saltiness out, patting them dry, and in the blender they go. Now all I need is a little bit of olive oil just to get that paste going. And then we blitz. Perfect. Let's see what it looks like in there. Ooh, nice paste. I could tell you that this smells like garlic, like crazy. You just put the paste right in the oil, and I'm doing this again to intensify the flavors. Okay, just like this, you see, if you could smell this, it's absolutely garlicky and fantastic. I put these little guys back in. And what's left to do is deglazing with wine. Now, can you imagine all the flavors and all the tastes? I'm not adding any salt because the anchovies are really quite salty. Now, this I could cook on the stove, but I'm gonna do it in the oven just so I can get a nicer cooking. Actually, I need to cook this for a very, very long time. Very slow oven, just so all the flavors of the garlic go into the meat and it'll fall off the bone. Now this one has been cooking for quite some time. All right, let's see what it looks like. Now these guys here, right on the plate. This is a very comfort food kind of meal. You almost want to chop, take the bone like this, like a caveman, and just start chewing on it. Now these little bits here in the pot, this is the braising liquid. Never get rid of this. I take this right here and put it in the bowl. Now I could serve it like this, but that's lots of fat. So a good trick is to take this bowl and you put it in the freezer. And what that does is it'll actually cool the top down. The fat rises to the top. You see all these little bits here? You can see it right on top. This is the good stuff and the fat. So you can skim it way easier that way. Okay, you just, very easy. Take a little spoon like this. You skim the fat right on top. And you're ready to put this luscious, luscious sauce right like this. Now that are some lamb shanks, I'm telling you. And the perfect match, gremolata, which is a parsley, lemon, garlic. Oh my God. This lamb is so tender. After skiing all day, that's exactly the kind of food that I want to eat. How about some ground lamb with a spicy tomato sauce? A little bit of cheese. Now that sounds good to me. I have a little bit of ground lamb here. You see, there's a little bit of fat, but you know what? Fat is flavor. Follow me, I'll show you what I'm doing here. I have some ground lamb right here that's caramelizing. You see all the brown bits? That's flavor right at the bottom. You just want this very brown, and I'm adding canned tomatoes. It's okay to add canned tomatoes. In the winter, there's no fresh tomatoes, and for this dish, it's actually better to use this. Now, how about a little garlic and parsley for a little freshness? Thanks, Dom.
You're welcome, Chef.
Now, that looks good already, doesn't it? Good. A little tomato paste. That'll thicken the sauce a little bit, but not too much. Cinnamon. Not too much, but hey, just a little will help. Dried oregano. You can use fresh also, but you would use 3 times as much as the dried stuff. Some bay leaves. This is fresh bay leaves, and the trick here is just to break them up to release the essential oils. Plop them right in. A little bit of salt and pepper, why not? Some red wine. And to finish it off, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Now the balsamic vinegar will cut through the acidity of the tomatoes and it'll bring out the sweetness. When this is cooked, look at this magic. Now this smells so good already. I could just put this on some noodles or something like this, but hey, let's make it a little more interesting. Right here, I have some eggplants, just some regular purple eggplants that I've salted, and you can see that I've salted them with the water that comes out of it. I'm doing this to take all the excess liquid out of the eggplant. This is the bitter stuff that you don't want on eggplant. So you do this, you put it in a colander, and all the juices come out. Now, these guys, because they're so wet, I pat them dry to get the excess moisture. Put them on a baking sheet with a little bit of olive oil. Now this is going to be very good tasting. The sauce is going to go in the eggplant. I really can't wait to try this. A little bit of salt, and in the oven it goes. Okay. I'm cooking this for a very short time, just to cook the outside, because eggplants are a little chewy, but if you roast them in the oven like this, I'm telling you, it brings the flavor right out. Okay, now let's build these little ramekins here. I have the lovely eggplant. You see these ramekins? They've been buttered and a little bit of breadcrumbs. That's to avoid any stickage happening. So I'm putting the eggplant right on the bottom. And Tom has our sexy sauce right here. Now at this point you can put as much as you want. I'm putting lots and lots for me. Okay, now this, I mean, having your head right on top here, it's very, very tempting to dig in, but I'm gonna finish these before I try. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, Chef.
So to this, I add a little bit of ricotta cheese. Now, the reason why I'm adding ricotta and not another cheese, it's a very dry cheese and it'll absorb a lot of the moisture. All right, a little bit of breadcrumbs again, just in case there's too much water in the eggplant still. A little more eggplant. As you've noticed that the eggplants are cut perfectly to the size of the ramekin, and that's already planned ahead when you do the cutting of the eggplant. A little bit of nutmeg for a little sweetness. Now another cheese because I love it so much. A little Parmesan on top. This will help to caramelize the top and it'll be luscious. Okay, in the oven again. Not for a long time. Really, you just want to do this crust right here. You see this? Like this smells quite sexy to me. Let's try these babies. All right, you just take them right out. No, it's kind of hot, but it's okay. There you go. You want to try, guys? Ooh. You should try this. It's so spicy with the nice flavors of the allspice and the cinnamon. The lamb really cuts through the eggplant.
That is wonderful.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
To the lamb.
To the lamb.
From roasting, braising, it never fails. Always succulent. Very good day today.